I'm going to show you how to do backstitch. Backstitch is one of the foundation stitches that you will use all the time, and once you've mastered it, it's actually quite straightforward. So I'm coming up to the front of the fabric with my thread, and I'm going to do just one straight stitch along the line that I'm going to be doing my stitches. I'm going to come back up about the same distance away as the initial stitch, and because it's called backstitch, we're going to go back down at the end of that first stitch, and we're going to continue along that invisible line. Well, it's invisible on here, along that invisible line until you finished and reached your end point. So once again, I'm coming back up about the stitch width away from the end of the last stitch and going back on myself to create a stitch. The length of the stitches will completely depend on what you're trying to achieve. So what stitching are you doing? What texture are you trying to achieve? How big is the whatever it is that you're doing, or is it small and you want small stitches? So all of that will depend exactly on what you're trying to stitch. So to show you some little stitches, I'll do a little stitch, and once again I'm going about a stitch distance away and coming back up to the front of my fabric and going back again and going back in at the end of the last stitch. Haven't been quite as tidy as there as I wanted to be, so I'll do it one more time. Sometimes I cheat with this a little bit. I'm a bit lazy because, well, not lazy, I'm a bit tight with my thread. I always try and find ways that I can use as less thread as possible. So I do my first stitch and then I'll do my second stitch, same as we've been doing above. But instead of coming back up this way, because if you look at the back, I'm going to be doing almost 2 stitch lengths worth of my thread like that. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is come up here at the end of the last stitch I've just done, because of course I came up here in the first place and went back down there. So by bringing it up here, I'm not going to be unpicking my stitch and then carrying on as normal. So do a stitch forward. Oops. Oh, I've got a slide. And a stitch backwards. And then once again, I'm going to do a stitch forward. That's not the real way you're supposed to do backstitch, but it's the way I do it, by trying to save just that little bit of thread and make it last just that little bit longer.